Welcome back to At the Buzzer. I'm your host, Andrew Loveliner, joined alongside my co-host, Tyler Fertel and Dean McCollum. Today, we're going to be discussing the Western and Eastern Conference Finals. And first, we're going to start off in the West. So first, quick disclaimer, we are filming this after the Suns beat the Clippers in Game 1. So as of right now, we know that the Suns are up 1-0 against the Clippers. But regardless, Tyler, what are your thoughts on this series and who do you think is going to come out victorious?
So before I go into who I have winning the series, I just want to talk about how the first game of this playoff series was actually very fun to watch. I mean, it was back and forth. The Suns ended up coming out on top because of their late game run and because of the spectacular play of Devin Booker. Although they did let the Clippers cut it to 6 with that 1 minute left in the fourth quarter, they were really, really good. So that closed it out for them. But for the Suns, I feel like that they've been really, really good in this playoff so far. They beat the Lakers, the defending champions, who were injury riddled in 6 games, and then they beat the Nuggets, who were also injury riddled in 4 games. But that was a great series for them because they got a lot of extra rest that the Clippers didn't get, and were able to finish off the Nuggets really quickly and just go straight to the Western Conference Finals. And I feel like their depth has really been helpful. Obviously, Chris Paul is out currently due to protocols. He should be returning either for game 2 or game 3, but Cam Payne has really been spectacular while he's been out. He was good in game 1. He was really good against the Lakers when Chris Paul was out with that shoulder injury, and he was consistent against the Nuggets too. So he's been really important. Jay Crowder's intensity has been really good. DeAndre Ayton is having a great playoffs, amazing first playoffs for him. And then obviously Devin Booker's been probably, arguably, maybe behind Kevin Durant, the best player in the playoffs so far. He put up 40 points in a triple-double in this first game of the series. So he's been spectacular. If Chris Paul comes back soon, I feel like that this series could potentially end up being a sweep because Kawhi Leonard, and with the reports I've seen, it could potentially be an ACL injury. Clippers haven't really said anything. He's out for game 2, but my guess is he'll probably be out the whole series. So if Chris Paul returns soon enough, and as we saw, the Suns without Chris Paul and the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard, the Suns came out on top. So if the Suns get back their probably best player and the Clippers don't, I feel like the series isn't going to be as good as people maybe hope it's going to be. But on the Clippers side of things, in the late Utah Jazz series, and their bench really, and their bench and really their depth overall played really, really well. Terrence Mann, as we all know, put up 39 points in that game 6 against the Jazz. That put him over the top in that game. And Reggie Jackson has been putting up really, really good numbers in the past 2 series. So he's been good. And then DeMarcus Cousins, although they lost, did put up, I think, 11 points in 4 to 5 minutes. So you can continue to do that. Definitely gives the Clippers a chance. But in this series, I feel like the Suns have been more of a consistent team throughout the playoffs. The Clippers' depth before the end of that Jazz series wasn't really that good. They almost lost to a Mavericks team that wasn't as talented, in my opinion, as the Clippers are. So they looked a little rocky against the Mavericks. I thought that they probably should have lost that series. And then early in the Jazz series, they were down 2-0, but then ended up making a good comeback. But I feel like the Suns have shown that they're a really good team throughout the playoffs so far. And the Clippers recently have, but I'm not convinced they can beat a Suns team, especially without Kawhi Leonard. So I think that they can steal 1 game, but after that, other than that, I don't think they can. So I'm going to have the Suns winning in 5 games in this series.
Yeah, Tyler, you made some good points about how the Suns are just overall a much deeper team than the Clippers. And watching the Suns throughout their playoff run this season really made me aware of how deep of a team they are. I wasn't really aware of that during the regular season, but when they fought out versus the Lakers in the first round, all of their guys were just playing like max contract players, like Cameron Payne, just a sniper. I mean, he was playing in China, I think, last year, and now he's a very key piece to their title run right here this year. And you got Jay Crowder. I mean, he's always been a contributor on many different championship teams. He was on the Heat last year. He was on the Cavs with LeBron when they were making finals runs. He was also on the Celtics when they almost made a finals run. So, I mean, he's just a great 3-and-D player, one of the best in the league. And then when you got Devin Booker playing like a superstar, we already knew he was a budding superstar, but now he's actually playing like one. He's broken out into one. And you have Chris Paul, great veteran, is just probably the best leader or or not the best leader, but definitely top 5 leader in the NBA. And you have DeAndre Ayton, who's playing the best basketball of his life right now. So everything's really fitting together with the Suns right now. And that compared to the Clippers just are going to have to rely on people like Terrence Mann. They had to rely on him in order to even win that game versus the Jazz. If he wasn't even there, then they wouldn't have even come close to winning that game. And they would be playing a game 7 tonight. But as we're filming this, and they also have to rely on guys like Reggie Jackson to have good games. And overall, I'm just not as confident in the Clippers' depth as I am in the Suns. Obviously, the Suns are coming into the series as the favorite. They're already up 1-0 as we're filming this. So, I mean, the Kawhi Leonard injury is really going to hurt them, of course. That's obviously hurting their depth. I'm going to have to agree with you, Tyler. I think it's 4-1 most likely. As of right now, I don't think Kawhi Leonard's going to play the entire series. I could be wrong, but if he doesn't, I'm going to take a 4-1 Suns victory, and they're going to be headed to the NBA Finals.
Andrew, before you say something really quickly, I want to add that the Clippers, they were down 25 in the second quarter against that Jazz team and ended up coming back. That, what I think, was it in the third quarter? Sorry.
Yeah, early third.
Yeah. So what I think that shows about this team is that they have some really bad stretches. Like they throughout this playoffs, in the Mavericks series specifically, they had some stretches where they literally couldn't make a shot. But what it shows is that they have some really scrappy players that can go on runs, like Reggie Jackson. Patrick Beverly was really important in their comeback in that game. So I feel like that if they can make shots and they can play good defense, because they have a bunch of players, including Rajon Rondo, that can also play good defense and that can share the ball and that can probably help in a comeback. I feel like that could definitely change the pace of the series, because if they can steal a game from the Suns, then it could change things. I personally don't think they can. I feel like that the Suns just have more talent than them, but that's definitely something to watch because they're a really, really scrappy team. Paul George has been good. He was good against the Jazz late in the Jazz series. And so if he can stay on that run and players around him can continue to potentially make shots and be good, definitely think that it could be a close series, but I still just think Suns are a better team overall.
I think I agree with you guys that the Suns are going to come out on top, except I do think it's going to go past 5 games. I think I'm leaning towards it going 6 or 7. And the only reason why is because, like, going into the playoffs, especially after the first round series with the Clippers against the Mavericks, I was like, okay, they're obviously the better team, but the Clippers were super consistent, down 2-0 and 3-2. But then they would have these games where they'd shoot like 60% from 3 and just win because they literally couldn't miss. I mean, literally everyone on their team, as you mentioned, Patrick Beverly, Reggie Jackson, guys like Terrence Mann, Nicholas Batum, just making threes from all over the court. And then obviously Kawhi and Paul George were good as well. But now with Kawhi Leonard out, I don't know if they have enough to beat the Suns, just because I think Chris Paul is going to play in this series. I don't know if it's going to be next game, but he looks like he's in good spirits. And I think that after like the 10-day requirement, he'll probably just be back out there. So I think I think he's for sure coming back, but I can't say the same about Kawhi Leonard because all we know so far is that Kawhi Leonard has an ACL injury, and that's really no joke. And I don't think Kawhi Leonard wants to jeopardize his career, especially going into an offseason where he has already said he's probably going to decline his player option and sign probably a new max deal with either, most likely the Clippers or potentially another team. But that's the irrelevant part.
Drew, you so badly want to say he's going to the Knicks right now. It's so funny. You're trying to hide it, but we can all tell.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if he went to the Knicks, but it's good to point out that I don't think he wants to like test out a career-ending injury for some players going into a contract negotiation period this summer. But yeah, I mean, I don't trust the Clippers as much as I trust the Suns because the Suns have been more consistent. And like Dean said, their role players have been better. And as I said, more consistent than the Clippers role players. Guys like Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, Cam Payne, they've all been really good. And Devin Booker I think he's honestly been the best player in this playoffs. I know KD was pretty good. But I think his scoring's a little higher because he had less help, but no one can guard Devin Booker on the Clippers. And if they double him, the Suns are one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league right now. And throughout the entire season. So I think that it's going to be really tough for the Clippers to win because they don't have anyone that can match up one-on-one. And I think that offensively, the Clippers are really inconsistent, especially like shooting. Like I think the Clippers will be able to win a couple games just by hitting like 50% of their threes because they shot like I think the highest 3-point percentage in a season of all time. They do have some good shooters, but I don't think that is enough to carry them without Kawhi.
Yeah, I just feel like their inconsistencies with like a lot of their depth players, like for example, like Luke Kennard. I mean, he's done nothing this playoffs, and he's being paid like what 14-15 million dollars a year. He's been ridiculously
It's like 18 million a year.
Yeah, it's just like that's like you need players like that when you're without your best players. You need players like that to step up and be consistent. And I feel like especially without Kawhi Leonard, their inconsistencies aren't going to be able. They're not going to be able to like overcome their inconsistencies. Especially against the Suns team, who have been really consistent throughout the playoffs. The Suns have been a team that consistently can put up around 100 points or more a game because they have so many options that can score. Despite Devin Booker putting up 40, I think they had 2 or 3 or 4 players that put up double digits. And when that happens and you already have a player that puts up 40, you're going to win most of the time. So I feel like the Suns are just going to be too much for the Clippers in the series. Yeah.
Also, one more thing I'd like to point out. I think Paul George has definitely like kind of squandered all of the criticism from last year just because he was solid in the Mavericks series, only a couple bad shooting performances. In the Utah series, he started out a little shaky, but obviously he finished super strong. And I think that Paul George is honestly better off as a number 1 option on a team than number 2 option because like when you look at him like on the Pacers, like he took as a young player, like most improved player, he took LeBron James and that super team to 7 games. But then right when he went to Oklahoma City to play with a second star who was at the time Russell Westbrook, who was a better player than him, who was literally coming off of an MVP season where he averaged triple-double. Paul George was terrible in the playoffs. And then now with Kawhi, he hasn't been terrible in the playoffs, but he hasn't been like that MVP, all NBA caliber of a player that we know Paul George can be. But now all of a sudden when Kawhi goes out, Paul George, he's way more efficient and he plays better. And I think that he knows how to be number 1 option better than number 2 option. And because of that, I think this series is probably going to go a little farther than some people think, despite how much better the Suns may look on paper.
And I feel like I agree with you there. I feel like he's way better when he has the ball in his hands more. He's a 1v1 player. He likes to go at people, try to get around them or try to get an open shot. And I feel like you said, he was really good on the Pacers because he could do that whenever he wanted. He was the best player on that team by far, and he's shown that he can. Personally, I feel like if Kawhi Leonard does end up leaving this offseason, he can be the number 1 option for the Clippers and still make them remain as a playoff team. Not as good as they are right now, but I think they can still remain as a playoff team. Maybe he'll get a second option if Kawhi leaves, like DeMar DeRozan or Kyle Lowry, that are still like all-star caliber. But I feel like he has shown in the late Jazz series, and maybe he can show in this series, that he is a player that can be a number 1 option, and his play style makes him that. Dean, what do you think?
I think that he's definitely, like Andrew said, gotten away from the pandemic P. That's all Kristaps Porzingis now. But I don't know. I think it may be a bit of a stretch if Kawhi Leonard leaves and he doesn't really get replaced by someone of an all-star caliber player. I don't know if he can lead the Clippers to a secure playoff spot. I think maybe a play-in team, now that the play-in tournament is now a new rule in the NBA playoffs. But I mean, Paul George has definitely gotten a lot of haters. He's proved a lot of the haters wrong, but I don't know if he can still keep the Clippers in solid playoff team tier.
Yeah, I definitely think moving back to this series, it's going to be a series where a lot of the time when Devin Booker, obviously the surrounding players need to play well too, but I feel like something that might come down to it is who plays better in a game, Devin Booker or Paul George, because they're both without their best players out or out their Kawhi Leonard and Chris Paul out. They're going to have to rely on being the number 1 options on their team. So if they can put up a lot of points, but also help their other teammates out and get them good shots and stuff, draw double teams and stuff like that, because Devin Booker did today, Paul George can definitely too when they're either winning or he's really playing really well offensively. If that happens, I feel like that could be a game changer because they're both really, really good offensive scorers. And when they're on, they're on.
Also, one last thing before I move to the Eastern Conference Finals matchup, I'm very curious to see if the Clippers do what they did against the Jazz, which worked really well, and to the Mavericks to some extent, which is go small. They did it a little bit and it worked on some possessions, but like as a whole, it wasn't good enough to win them the game. Like they beat the Jazz because they went small and Rudy Gobert just couldn't do anything about it. But it looks like so far DeAndre Ayton has done an okay job, and I'm curious to see if they try to play big because they did have DeMarcus Cousins out there for some minutes. I think he had like 5 fouls in like 10 minutes or something funny like that. And Zubats was definitely out there, but DeAndre Ayton, I think it's just going to take advantage of them. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if the Clippers try to match up with him from a center or if they try to just play 5 out and only use guards and forwards. And I think this is a series where they could really use Serge Ibaka. I have literally no idea what happened to him.
He's out the rest of the playoffs.
I know he's out for the rest of the playoffs, but it doesn't really make sense. After the All-Star break, he got injured and he was out forever. And then he played in game one of the Maverick series.
He got injured again. Again.
It's a different injury.
He barely played and then he got injured again.
He barely played and then he got injured again. And then he actually started the playoffs and then went out with the injury and just hasn't came back. I see him on the sidelines in some weird outfits, but I think he would be very helpful for them because he's actually an athletic big that could maybe put up a fight against DeAndre Ayton and also shoot. I just don't think that even with the Clippers going small, they can have some success. But like DeAndre Ayton is actually a skilled big man, unlike Rudy Gobert. He has post moves. He can make
he's short offensive skill.
He can make a short mid-range jump shot. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm interested to see. But
one more thing before we move on. I definitely agree with you how you talk about like how when the Suns go big, the Clippers might want to go small. But I feel like it's also the other way around. Like there were moments in this game where Dario Saric was the biggest player for the Suns on the court when DeAndre Ayton was either in foul trouble or he needed some rest. The Clippers went on runs when Boogie Cousins was in the game when he was against Dario Saric. He postered Dario Saric today. He drew a couple of fouls off of him, and he played well when the Suns went small. I feel like that's definitely something that the Clippers need to do because I feel like they're outmatched with skill. I feel like the Suns overall might be the more skilled team, but I feel like they might have to do more kind of like matchup wise to win the series. And I feel like that's definitely one of the things that could change it because if they can go big or small when the Suns are doing the opposite, it could definitely change the reins of a game or in even the series.
All right. Yeah, definitely going to be an exciting series. Can't wait to watch the rest of it. And now we're going to move on to the Eastern Conference. So as we're recording this, the Atlanta Hawks just defeated the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 7. It was a pretty interesting game. I know we all have a lot to talk about this game. I'll quickly start off by saying I think the Hawks, like most people, didn't really have them going far in the playoffs. Obviously, I wanted my favorite team, the Knicks, to beat them. But I knew the Hawks were a more talented team, and I didn't think they'd get by Philly. But with how badly Ben Simmons played and just Joel Embiid being injured and run down, the Hawks were able to take advantage of him. And the Hawks are no joke now, as we know. Going into the series against the Bucks, they're definitely going to have a huge task ahead of them with guarding Giannis. I don't really know how they're going to do it. I think they might try to put Clint Capella on him. Or maybe John Collins, or maybe they'll just double him and just force other guys to beat him. I think they could really use DeAndre Hunter in this series to match up with Giannis and just give him some more like physicality because John Collins is a little slimmer than Giannis, not by much, but just a little slimmer. And I'm also excited to see how they guard Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton because they don't have great perimeter defenders. Their best one is probably Bogdan Bogdanovic. But the problem is, if you watched Game 7, you saw that he wasn't out there during the final minutes because of a nagging knee injury that he has. He has some like knee soreness. So it seems as though that's definitely affecting him. And I don't really trust Kevin Huerter or Lou Williams or like Trae Young to be guarding guys like Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. So I think the Bucks are going to be able to win this series. I don't think it'll be a sweep. I think Atlanta gets at least one game just because they have the potential to like drop 130 points in a game whenever they want based on how many shooters they have. But I just think that it's going to be too difficult for them to guard the Bucks in this series.
Yeah. I think that there are too many players on the Bucks to be contained by the Hawks. I don't think the Hawks are going to be able to contain all of Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Middleton, because there are going to be some games in this series where all of them are basically going to be near unstoppable in the Hawks' perspective, and they're just going to absolutely crush the Hawks. I think that having John Collins on Giannis, I assume that's what's going to happen. And when he tries to drive in, Clint Capella will be there to help. But I assume John Collins will be there sticking with Giannis or trying to for the majority of the game. I just don't really think it's going to work out. I don't see Trae Young really stopping Drew Holiday. I mean, he was playing really, really well down the stretch in Game 7 versus the Nets. And also Chris Middleton is going to have those games where he shows why he's an all-star. But I think that, I mean, the Hawks, like Andrew said, they have potential to drop 130 points, but a really good defensive team like Philly held them to. Did they win by? Did they hold them to under 100 points?
No, it was 103-97. I think
it was still a low scoring game. I think the Bucks are also a very good defensive team, as we all know. They have Giannis, they have Middleton, Drew Holiday. All of them are top defenders at their position. I think that this series won't really be that close. I think that the Hawks can max win 2 games. I think that it will be 4-1. I don't know if Andrew said 4-1 or 4-2, but I just think the Hawks aren't going to be able to guard Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday, because when the Bucks are rolling like they were in Game 7 towards the end of the game, they look unstoppable. I think that they're going to win the entire thing playing like that. So if they keep it up, if they stay locked in and stay on their game, I definitely think they're going to have an easy time getting to the finals versus the Hawks.
Yeah, I forgot if I said this, but my prediction would be 4-2 Bucks. Just because I think the Hawks can shoot well a few games, but I feel like Trae Young's gonna have a tough time with Drew Holiday guarding.
Yeah, before Tyler talks, I'm gonna give the Hawks max 2 wins, but I think it'll be 4-1.
So going back, before I talk about my prediction, going back to what Dean was saying about like guarding Giannis, I think that the best thing that the Hawks will be able to do is I think they'll put Clint Capella on Giannis. I think that's their best shot with him, because Brook Lopez plays a lot on the perimeter. He shoots a lot of threes. They usually play Giannis mostly in the post. Like, he's the one that usually is in the post more than Brook Lopez. So I feel like they'll probably put John Collins on Brook Lopez, have him guard the perimeter, and then have Clint Capella, their best defender by a mile, in the interior guarding Giannis. So I feel like that's probably their best chance to contain Giannis. I don't even know if Clint Capella will be able to, but I mean, probably their best shot. So I actually think this series is going to be closer than people think, than Dean and Andrew think. And before giving my prediction, I want to say why. So Dean was just talking about how the Sixers are a good defensive team. The Knicks are also a good defensive team. The Hawks beat both of them. The Hawks surprised both teams with their offensive firepower. Trae Young, even though he shot terribly in this Game 7 against the Sixers, his surrounding cast was able to do enough. Clint Capella was really good in the paint against Joel Embiid and was able to get those lobs, was able to get rebounds. Onyeka Okongwu played valuable minutes and got some offensive rebounds too. Kevin Huerter had his best game of the season today, putting up 27 points. If Bogdan Bogdanovic is healthy and can play, he's also a great perimeter scorer. And Danilo Gallinari was really, really good in Game 7 too. He's been great all around the playoffs too. So I feel like that, and John Collins has a good mid-range. He's athletic. He's a shot blocker. I mean, he's not a great defender, but he's a shot blocker, and he's good on the offensive side with offensive boards and being overall just playing athletically and working hard. So I feel like that this Hawks team I feel like they can upset the Bucks. I feel like I mean that both in the series, and I mean that both like in the actual game. Like, they can make the Bucks physically mad because they can go on streaks where they literally don't miss. I mean, in today's game in the third quarter, there was a streak where I think that the Sixers were up by 4, and then the Hawks, like 2 minutes later, were up 5 or 6. Like, because Danilo Gallinari hit a 3, Kevin Huerter had an and 1, Trae Young hit like a 3 from like basically the logo. I feel like that this team has a lot more firepower than both the Knicks and the Sixers thought, that there is a chance that the Bucks could be rattled. And although like Andrew was talking about, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, I mean, like they'll probably have easy baskets like basically every time down the court. I mean, Trae Young can't guard Drew Holiday. Kevin Quater can't guard Chris Middleton. I feel like that's going to be the game changer, which kind of I feel like it's going to be the key to the series, in my opinion, is going to be, can the Bucks hold Giannis to under 30 points a game? Because if they can do that, that's impressive. And if Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday put up more points combined than Trae Young and Kevin Quater, if they do that, I feel like the Bucks have an easy series. But I feel like it might not be as easy as people think it is. Kevin Quater had a great game today in a game that's probably the biggest of his life. So although he might not be able to keep it up, if Bogdan Bogdanovic can help out, that would be huge for them. So I'm going to go with a prediction of 4-3 Bucks, just because I feel like the Hawks, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday should, Trae Young can't guard them. Kevin Quater can't guard them. Bogdan's injured. Lou Will can't play defense. So just the guard defense, like Andrew's talking about for the Hawks, is atrocious. So I just feel like it's going to be too much for the Hawks to win the series, but I actually think they can push it to 7, and if they get there, they definitely have a chance.
Tyler, I don't think it's a matter of who's scoring more combined points. Trae Young and what'd you say, Kevin Huerter or Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. I think it's a matter of if they can guard Giannis, and the answer is no, they can't stop Giannis. And if they're focused,
how do you know that?
When was the last time Giannis was basically containable other than the Heat series? He hasn't been able to be contained. And who's going to guard?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that if he plays relatively well, the Hawks can't win a game.
No, I never said the Hawks weren't winning a game.
Trae Young can put up 40 any night too.
Okay, Tyler,
he had an awful game today against the best one, arguably the best defensive team in the league against. He won 5 for 23, and the team won anyway because their surrounding cast is underrated.
The surrounding cast is underrated, but at least they weren't playing into surrounding cast full of non-shooters. The reason why Giannis won't get locked up like he did against the Bucks last year, and the reason why the
Bucks depth is worse than the Sixers. You can't make that argument. Their best player
off the bench. It doesn't matter. It's the playoffs. It doesn't matter. Your best player. This is not the regular season. This is the playoffs. Your best players all play 40+ minutes.
Yeah, but when Giannis is sitting out, and Chris Middleton is being
Chris Middleton has shown that he can be the best player on the Bucks at times so far this series. He carried the Bucks single-handedly to multiple wins.
How about when it's Chris Middleton on the floor and no Giannis, no Drew Holiday, and Trae Young on the floor? Tyler, which team would you put up more? Which team do you think will put up more points?
I trust the Bucks because they're a better defensive team regardless of who's on the floor. And Chris Middleton has shown that he can be the best player on the team, on a playoff team that wins games. You want to know why?
You're saying he can be a number 1 option on a playoff team?
I mean, and he's shown that. He's shown that.
Was it you or Dean that said Paul George couldn't? So
I didn't say Paul George could.
No one ever said Paul George can be the number.
Chris Middleton. It's not about Paul George. Chris Middleton has shown this
I'm just asking,
he can carry the Bucks to the win.
Do you think Chris Middleton could be a number 1 option on a contending team and Paul George can't?
Not like making it to the finals, no, but he can win.
I'm not saying they're going to make it to the finals. I'm just saying Chris Middleton's good enough to the point where if Giannis were to have an off night or two, he's good enough to be the best player on the team.
But the thing that you're not taking into account is that the defending team is always the first option on the court is always going to be Giannis. Like Chris Middleton's rarely getting double teamed.
Exactly,
has gotten double teamed plenty of times this year.
That's part of what I'm saying. Why Chris Middleton?
If Chris Middleton is the number 1 option on a team and he's getting double teamed, how do you know that he'll be able to be good?
Tyler, you're not understanding. I'm not saying that Chris Middleton can be the number 1 option on a championship winning team. I'm just saying if Giannis were to with Giannis playing with the same team, if Giannis has an off night or one of these games where he's just not on it, I still don't think the Hawks have a good chance of winning because who is going to guard Chris Middleton? Like you can't tell me that Kevin Huerter is going to guard Chris Middleton.
Also, Kevin Huerter had the best game of his career. The best game of his career. 27 points is the most he's ever dropped in a playoff series. I mean, he's this is his first one, but I guarantee you he's never dropped more than that in the past.
Also, the thing about stopping Giannis, you did mention that they can just clog the paint and
that's not going to work.
But that's not going to work because the reason why the Bucks lost to the Heat in the bubble was because overall they didn't have enough consistent 3-point shooters. The reason why they swept the Heat this year is because everyone on their team could make threes. The Heat played Giannis the exact same way they played him in the bubble, and it wasn't like Giannis was going off MVP level every game, but they had other guys making wide open threes. Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton were both
but the Hawks
having
can do that too.
field days.
But the Hawks can do that too.
Okay,
That's
so
the
they
thing.
can.
He couldn't do that. Duncan
so
Robinson
Hawks,
had a terrible series. Tyler Hero couldn't shoot. Jimmy Butler couldn't shoot. Bam Adebayo couldn't shoot.
But that wouldn't have mattered.
Now the Hawks have Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kevin Huerter, Danilo Gallinari. They can all shoot threes consistently. That's the thing that's different.
Okay, Trae Young is. They can put Drew Holiday and Trae Young. They can put Chris Middleton on either Huerter or Bogdanovic.
I'm not saying that the Hawks are going to win this series. I'm just saying that I think it's closer than people think. Because I feel like the Hawks have more offensive firepower, and have been able to hang with and beat teams that are really good defensively. Obviously, the Bucks are a better offensive team than probably the 76ers and definitely the Knicks. So that's why I still have them winning the series. But the Hawks were able to beat both the Knicks and the Sixers when they're two of the best defensive teams in the league.
The Sixers also have a point guard who can't score more than 8 points.
I understand what you're saying.
Drew Holiday can definitely go off for more than 20.
At the end of the day, I don't think it matters because no matter how the no matter how the Hawks play defensively, either guarding Giannis straight up with one person or double teaming him, it won't matter because the Bucks are a really good 3-point shooting team, and they have other guys that can go one-on-one and get a shot, especially when they're being guarded by subpar defensive players. So I know the Hawks can shoot well, and that's why I'm giving them a couple games because maybe like at home. And the Bucks
they've
are known
been better on the road the whole year.
The Bucks are known to be playoff chokers, and I don't think Mike Budenholzer is a better coach than McMillan. So I think that's why the Hawks might be able to take a few games from just shooting well. But I think the Bucks are just more purely talented, and even when it looked like the Nets were stopping Giannis a little bit, he was still averaging like 30 points in that series.
He put up 40 in the last.
He put up 40 in the last. He put up 40 in the last game. And I think now that Giannis learned that he can't just be like shooting like fadeaways and like just pull up threes on fast breaks, like now that he knows like Giannis, if he's not in the paint or posting up, he's not shooting. He's passing the ball now. And I think that's going to be the reason why the Bucks win the series, because when Giannis doesn't take stupid shots, I mean, the Bucks are insanely hard to guard.
No, yeah. The thing about the Bucks is that their two guards are both good defensive players and are good offensive players too. I mean, Drew Holiday's semi-good on offense. I mean, he's way better on the defensive side of the ball, but he's pretty good on offense. And Chris Middleton has shown he can be an offensive threat. And then obviously Giannis is always going to be the center of attention. But the thing that also
Tucker.
What?
They also have PJ.
Oh yeah, I forgot about PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker is going to be a game changer.
Their starting lineup is stacked defensively. I mean,
no, yeah, that's the thing. Like it's even though the Knicks and the Sixers were good defensively, the Bucks are going to be the best defensive team that they're going to play just because they match up better. Like the Hawks matched up better than the Sixers. Yeah. The Hawks matched up better than the Sixers than they do the Bucks, just because they could. Clint Capella can match up with Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons can't shoot. Trae Young can't play defense. Like they matched up way better than the Sixers than they can with the Bucks, which is obviously concerning. And obviously that's why I have the Bucks winning. I just feel like with their offensive firepower, and if the Bucks don't make too many shots, I think that the Hawks can steal some games and potentially win the series if they're lucky. But I also think that it's like last thing before we go to shot clock. What I didn't like in the last couple possessions against the Nets in Game 7, I did not like how the ball was in Chris Middleton's hands taking threes, and it was not in Giannis in a 1v1 scenario against like Blake Griffin in the post. Give your ball to the best player. Let him drive. Let him get fouled, although he's not a good free throw shooter. That's another thing concerning about the Bucks. Not a very good free throw shooting team. But I feel like in that scenario, even if he's not a good free throw shooter, give the ball to Giannis. And if you're in that scenario against the Hawks, and if he's being guarded by Clint Capella, I think you still do it. But if he's being guarded by John Collins, give him the ball every possession, because Giannis will just be able to get around him, and his athleticism can make him dunk. He'll be able to dunk.
I understand your point, Tyler, but when you need one shot, like in a one possession game, like Chris Middleton's
They're
skill
up
set.
2. They're up. They were.
I know,
remember,
okay,
they were
but
up
the-
That
you
was
need
the
a basket.
worst play drawn up. That was the worst.
It was a bad play.
That's my
Understand-
point. Why was the
look,
play
look,
drawn
the
up for
play
Chris
was-
Middleton when
look,
you have
look,
Giannis on your
listen,
team in a
listen,
1v1
listen.
That's
scenario?
Brook
The problem-
Lopez's fault. That's Brook Lopez's fault. He sold that entire
Listen,
play.
listen. The play being drawn up.
No. That was a completely different play. This was
He's
an
talking about a different play. He's talking. He look, Tyler, listen.
I don't remember if it was an OT or
Running the
regular
play
time.
for Chris Middleton
it
is
wasn't really
actually
close
not
in
the
OT.
problem. The execution of the play
It
was
was in
terrible.
regular. It was in regular.
I don't remember, but they were up by 2, and there was.
I know what you're talking
There was
about,
like
Tyler.
30 seconds left on the clock, and Giannis was
This
in
was-
the post. Everyone
yeah.
was on one side of the court. Giannis was in the
This is
post against
regulation.
Blake Griffin 1v1, and
He's
Chris
talking.
Middleton went 1v1
He's talking
against
about
like
how they
James
could have won
Harden
in
and took a 3
regulation
when they were up
before
by
it went to
2
OT.
instead of giving it to Giannis and letting him cook and make it a 2-possession
But
game.
Tyler,
anyway.
I don't think you understand. You have to look at Giannis' skill set. Like in a scenario like that where it's a 1-possession game and you're calling a timeout to run the play, like Chris Middleton's skill set and what he does well is more fitting. Like you're gonna have to draw that play up for him because Blake Griffin actually was playing decent defense
Yeah, he
in
was
that game.
actually playing kind of fine
And
defense.
if you put like Giannis, the thing is, if you were to say like either Giannis or Chris Middleton last second shot, I need to give the ball to someone and have them go get a bucket. Like you're gonna give it to Chris Middleton. No offense
Giannis
to
can't
Giannis.
get in his bag.
You
like
can't
that.
you can't just put Giannis in the post and hope he scores because here's the thing, they're either gonna foul him, which as you said, he can't make free throws, or they're just gonna double team him and the ball's gonna go to someone else anyway. You might as well not risk
after watching that
Lopez,
play,
as Dean said, you
know.
might as well not risk Brook Lopez somehow getting the ball in the final seconds. Just put it in Chris Middleton's hands, who's shown the ability to make clutch shots before.
I understand
rather than Giannis, who can't do anything one-on-one.
It just didn't sit well with me that they didn't give it to their best player in the time where they needed to. Because
I understand
feel like,
that,
I just
it
like,
doesn't. Yeah,
Giannis has been
you would
dominant.
think
why Budenholzer's not a good coach.
you would think that Giannis would be able to dominate, but Giannis, like, he can't score. Like, you can't just give him the ball in the perimeter, and he can't score against
he's
a
either
set
going to
defense.
get fouled or like there's no way in that scenario that he misses the shot and doesn't get fouled. He either gets fouled or makes it. That's the scenario for me because Blake Griffin's,
But if he gets fouled, but the thing is, he's just going to get doubled.
I personally would rather like he still has the chance to like. If he makes 1 and 2, they still can't lose in that scenario. I just feel like, and if I'm the coach in that scenario, I feel like I would rather give it to my best player and let him go to work in the post where he's most comfortable and potentially either push it to 2 possessions or get a foul and make it a 3-point game than have Chris Middleton shoot a contested 3 at the top of the key. Like I
definitely understand your point. I
scenario.
definitely understand your point. And like in like end of game scenarios and like last shot scenarios, it's really hard with a limited amount of time to like get someone set up in the post. Like Giannis needs like the structure of like being in the post to score.
Yeah,
whereas
that's
like
a process for him.
Exactly. Like it takes longer to set up. Whereas like the shot clock was low on that play. They needed to get a shot up fast. So, like, giving the ball to Chris Middleton gives them a better chance to score in that
definitely
scenario.
Makes sense. It just didn't sit well with me because they have Giannis on their team. And he can probably get a bucket when he wants to, especially against, like, if it's a really good defensive player, maybe not. But Blake Griffin isn't known for his defense. Like, I understand it. Like, I understand
a valid
it.
Point, yeah.
Yeah, I understand why they gave the ball to Chris Middleton because most late game shots are usually, like, threes. But, like, I don't know. I just thought they probably should have given it to Giannis.
No, it's definitely a valid point, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out if there is a last second shot scenario.
Because Giannis will probably, unless if it's John Collins on Giannis, then do they either give it to him or do they have Chris Middleton like play against like Trae Young or Kevin Quater, who's also not a very good defender? So they definitely have a choice there. So
I think we can talk about Kevin Huerter. He's probably not going to be that much of a factor in the Hawks bout versus the Bucks.
All right. Yeah. Well,
I mean, wait. Before we move on, he was being guarded by Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle is not a bad defender. He was
being guarded by Seth Curry.
No. But in the late game scenarios, in the late game scenarios, he had a couple of buckets in late game scenarios and being guarded by a good defender in Matisse Thybulle. I understand that.
We're not going to forget that.
That was like one.
Kevin Huerter hit some of the luckiest shots I've ever seen in my life, and you cannot deny that. Same with Gallinari.
Okay, it was really lucky, but still, like if he can put up 12 to 15 to 20 points, then that's a lot. That's a great contribution from him because
Obviously,
it's a good
20
defensive
points
team.
is a great contribution for Kevin Huerter. But yes, I don't know if he can do that consistently.
10 is too. So
we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out. But we're going to move on to the shot clock now. So instead of what we normally do, which is ask everyone a question.
I'm sorry in advance for the shot clock, everyone.
Because we only have 3 people here, and the draft lottery is this upcoming Tuesday. So we're going to be releasing this podcast on Monday. So tomorrow is the draft lottery, and there are 3 teams that have the best odds, the same odds to get the number 1 overall pick. Those teams are the Rockets, the Pistons, and the Orlando Magic, who actually have 2 picks. So I guess they have a better chance than some of the other teams, unless they because they have the potential to move up. All 3 of these teams have a 14% chance of getting them 1 pick, so it's dead even. So we're each just gonna pick a team that we're gonna root for, and next podcast we're gonna see who was right after the draft lottery. You also, listeners, you can think of which team you want. I'll just go first quickly. I will be rooting for the Detroit Pistons. I'm gonna pick them.
It's good. You're becoming their first fan. Congratulations, Pistons.
Yeah, I'm gonna be an honorary Pistons fan just because they're from Michigan and their franchise is so bad. They have 0 talent whatsoever. They have so many draft busts in their franchise's history. So I think it would actually be better for the NBA if they were to get Cade Cunningham and become relevant again. So yeah, I'm gonna pick the Pistons to get the first overall pick in the draft lottery. What about you, Dean?
All right, so there's always a few teams that hop into the top 4. Obviously, the Pelicans were one to get Zion. They got even luckier to get the number 1 overall pick, and then the Hornets got lucky to hop into the top 4, and they got LaMelo with the 3rd overall pick. I'm gonna make a bold statement right here. I'm going to have the team with the 6th highest odds at getting the number 1 overall pick, the Golden State Warriors. It is a bold prediction, but I had the Golden State Warriors getting the number 1 overall pick. They are going to be this year's lucky team.
I'm going to go with another team that has good odds. I'm going to go with the Houston Rockets just because of the fact I think it'd be really fun to watch KPJ, Cade Cunningham, and Christian Wood all on the same team. I feel like that'd be a really fun trio to watch in the future. So that's why I'm going to pick the Houston Rockets. There is no reasoning other than that behind it because there's no way to really know who's going to get it, but whatever.
I would like to point out that to all the listeners that instead of taking a combined 18.5% chance with the Orlando Magic at getting them 1 pick, Dean decided to choose a team with only a 9% chance. So I know the draft lottery is crazy.
Hey. That's bold. That's bold.
Always happens. Something always happens.
And also, I would like to point out, if that happens, the Warriors will not get that pick.
Oh, yeah.
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
That's kind of dumb.
Yeah, dude.
Can I change my pick?
Wow. They should already
I want to change my pick.
They should already be a playoff team. Like D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and Karl Anthony Towns should already be a playoff team. Adding Cade Cunningham to that team would be ridiculous.
I'm changing my pick. The first overall pick will be going to the Orlando Magic.
Hey, why'd you choose them now?
With their own pick, not the Bulls pick. It'll be their own pick. But maybe the Bulls pick will go into the top 4.
I would hate to see Cade Cunningham on such an irrelevant team. I'm not going to lie. Like, I mean, him and Cole Anthony would be fun, but like,
I think
Fultz is probably going to be out for like half the year next year with the torn ACL or whatever.
He got literally injured in the first 10 games.
Quick shot clock 2.0.
No, it was like 20 games.
What'd you say?
Which team?
No, I think Markel will be out for a while.
Wait, I think Andrew has another honorary shot clock thing.
This is just part 2 for shot clock. Just real quick, which lottery team? It doesn't have to be one with good odds at all. But which lottery team would you like Cade on?
I can go first, I guess. I would like to see Cade the most on the Rockets, probably. The Rockets.
Yeah, I would either stick with my thought of the Rockets, or I'm gonna go to the Pelicans.
That's what I was thinking.
Giannis and Ingram, dude. Giannis. Him, Zion.
Zion
and Ingram.
But
Him, Zion, and Ingram would be absurd.
I think it'd be pretty cool. I think the only way the Pelicans would not become an expansion team in a few years is if they got Cade Cunningham. But I'd actually like to see him on the Thunder because like that's his hometown, and I think him and SGA, like all those picks they had would be pretty absurd.
And they're probably going to trade Kemba Walker for a decent.
Yeah, they're 100% going to trade Kemba. Well,
you never know. They could do the thing they did with Chris Paul. You never know because he's an inspiring.
Kemba's really not that type of player.
No. They're not going to keep.
I would bet that
this is a bold prediction. Bold prediction for the draft. I think if the Thunder, like their projected fourth pick, they have the fourth best odds. They're probably going to have a pick somewhere around there. I think the Thunder, like they might try to, if they don't get the first pick, I think they might try to just trade literally all of their first round picks for the number one pick and just get Cade. I think that would be smart.
I
think top four protected. The Rockets have to be in the top four.
I think it would make more sense. Because I don't think the person that gets the number one overall pick is going to trade the number one overall pick.
But think about it this way.
I think it's more likely that they get to the second or third and get Evan Mobley because he would be a good fit for them too.
But listen to this. So if the Rockets don't get a top four pick, the pick is going to go to the Thunder. And the Thunder also have their own pick. So let's say the Thunder get like picks like 5 and 3 or 5 and 2. They could trade those 2 picks and they have a trove of other picks too. They could also
I just don't see the team with the number one overall pick trading it. I can't see if the Magic get the number one overall pick or I don't know who else would. I just don't see them trading personally.
The Magic do have a lot of young guards though. Cole Anthony, RJ Hampton, Markelle Fultz. I mean, if you're the Magic and you're going to be bad and irrelevant either way, would you rather add a fourth young guard or try to develop them and just take Evan Mobley and Jonathan Kuminga?
Well, you already have 2 centers too. I mean, I would still take Evan Mobley.
Mo Bamba's the bust.
Yeah, I know, but you still have Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr. on basically the exact same.
Okay, well then you could get Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah. There's so many options.
Not Jalen Suggs.
There's so many.
I feel like the team that gets the number one overall pick, if you really I feel like all teams probably have Cade Cunningham as their number one overall prospect. If it's a position of need, I mean, I guess if you're the Magic, you maybe trade down.
Don't draft for
really any other team. I don't think. Yeah, like Dean was saying, I don't think they draft for need. I feel like they draft because Cade Cunningham is the best prospect in the draft. I feel like it's more likely that the Thunder put together a couple of picks and trade to the 2 or 3 spot to get Evan Mobley and pair him up with SGA. I feel like that makes more sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll be talking more about the draft after the lottery. We'll see who wins the lottery, but just to recap, so. Dean's got the Magic winning the lottery. Tyler's got the Rockets, and I've got the Pistons. And yeah, we're gonna see. Definitely gonna be excited. Definitely thankful that the Knicks aren't in the lottery again. So that'll be nice. No more stress on lottery night for me. But yeah, thanks for listening or watching. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, go follow us on all socials at AT Buzzer Podcast. And yeah, stay tuned for our next episode.
And go enter the giveaway for Buzzer Cards at Buzzer Cards on Instagram. We're doing a giveaway for a Score Blaster. If you do anything with sports cards, investing or collecting, make sure to go look at that because it ends on the last day of June. So, yeah. See you next time.